Hey, hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jesse, and in today's video, your DNFs are going to be controlling my TBR. I went over on my community tab here on YouTube, asked you guys to submit your most recent DNFs and give me the reason as to why you ditched that particular book. I picked out 3 titles that I own, and throughout this video, I'm going to be reading these books and trying to figure out why somebody might have DNF'd it. I did this video recently where I read booktubers' DNF'd books, and I really enjoyed that process. It was really fun for me to kind of like figure out why somebody might DNF the books that I was reading, and also seeing if I myself wanted to DNF any of the books. I had my channel members pick out the first book that I'll be reading for this video, so shout out to them. Thank you, reader fam. But the first book that I have chosen is Sorcery of Thorns. This first anti-recommendation comes from Chris. I'm not gonna look as to why they DNF'd this book just yet. I'm gonna hold off, try to figure it out on my own, try to get to the bottom of it, but I am very excited to read this book. Truthfully, I've been really wanting to get into this author's books for a very long time, ever since their first book came out, An Enchantment of Ravens. I've been wanting to read this author, but for some reason, I just never end up getting around to her books, so I am excited that this will be my first one, even though there's a part of me that's like, you must read them in publication order. I'm just gonna dive into this one and see how I end up feeling about it. I feel like I've heard really good things about this one, but I don't know that I've heard great things about her other two, so I'll be interested to see how I end up feeling about this one. This is a fantasy story, a young adult fantasy book, if I remember correctly. It could be like more so new adult fantasy, but I think it's young adult fantasy. Let me figure out what it's even about. This is one of those descriptions where I feel like I'm not gonna do it justice in kind of paraphrasing what it's trying to say, but basically we are following this character named Elizabeth, and she has been raised around sorcerers, but she's always been raised around the fact that sorcerers are evil. And Elizabeth grew up around sorcery and sorcerers' tools, and she knows what they're capable of. She's aware of these spell books that could easily transform into these magical beasts and pose a threat to anybody that comes in contact with it. And Elizabeth hopes that she is able to become a warden so she can like protect her kingdom essentially from these attacks. When this library's most dangerous grimoire gets unleashed, Elizabeth finds herself kind of wrapped up in this unlikely crew, and also finds herself wrapped up in this conspiracy of sorts. Sounds messy. I love mess. The more work she does with this crew, and the more she is kind of like battling this grimoire, she realizes that everything she raised up believing might not be exactly what she thinks it is. So we're following her on this journey as she unravels the truth and tries to figure out what she believes in. I'm super excited to give this one a go. I'm taking this one on a trip with me. I'm going on a bit of a 4th of July trip. Will I get any reading done? That is the question. That is always the question, because I feel like I always take books with me and I never read. We'll see what happens. Let's get to reading. Hello, this is me, Jesse, editing this vlog currently. I just wanted to go ahead and apologize for the next clip that you're about to see because my camera decided that I am not the main character of this vlog, that my steering wheel needs to be the main character and I need to be blurry the entirety of the clip. So, not the entirety of the clip, but a majority of the clip. You'll see. I just wanted to apologize. I'm now gonna go put my camera in timeout for doing this to me. It's a very gloomy day today in Missouri. It's been raining all morning. I have no complaints though, because like I have been in the ultimate reading mood and I have been devouring Sorcery of Thorns. Like devouring. I was not expecting to enjoy this book as much as I am enjoying it, but let me tell you, I'm enjoying it. I do not foresee a DNF in my future. Like I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be sticking it through with this book. And I just overall have a really good feeling the deeper that I get into this book, which is obviously like the way that I want to be feeling. Like I want to be having a good feeling while reading this book. I looked this up on Goodreads just to make sure that it was a standalone, because I know that this author is like known for standalones, but for some reason I got a little bit nervous about this not being a standalone, and I looked it up and almost had a stroke because it said book 1 in the series, but I think that it's just book 1 and then there's like a novella that came out that's like a 1.5 situation, but I don't think that there's going to be a book 2. I really hope that there's not going to be a book 2, because even though I'm loving this book, like I don't need to be committing to more series right now. Like I'm good when it comes to series. If I'm going to be reading a series, I'm going to be attempting to binge it, because otherwise I will not finish it. I'm hoping that this is a standalone. If anybody has information on if this is not a standalone, I want to say don't let me know, because it's going to like destroy all my hopes and dreams. But if it is not a standalone, then please do let me know, because I need to know what I'm signing myself up for here. So far, I would be interested in reading the novella, because I am enjoying this enough to be like, I want more, give me more. But I just know how I am with series. So if this is the first in a series, I'm going to be a little bit upset about it. Okay, let's talk about all of my positives. I don't think I'm going to touch on any of my negatives just yet. I'm going to wait till I fully finish the book and fully have an understanding for everything going on. And I feel like a lot of the negative things that I've picked up on might be reasons as to why somebody might DNF this book. But anyway, this book just like hits the ground running. Like almost immediately, you're just kind of thrown into things. And I love that about it. I love that you just hit the ground running and you're just kind of picking up all the pieces, putting them together. There's a lot that happens immediately in the first few chapters, which I love. I love that about it. I feel like that's what like makes it really exciting and thrilling, are those first little build-up moments. And by chapter 4, like there's some pretty intense things happening. I will admit the fact that I feel like there is some kind of like info dumpy moments sprinkled throughout the book, but at the same time, if this is a standalone, which I think it is a standalone, you have a lot of ground to cover and not a lot of time. And to me, I don't feel like it's info dumpy in a way where it's like slowing things down. It's almost like spread out, but it's also in a short amount of time. So I could see it being a little bit too info dumpy for some people, but like I don't find it to be like disrupting the flow of the story at all. There's just a lot of information being thrown at you all at once. You're learning our main character, Elizabeth. You're learning about the library. You're learning about the grimoires, the sorcerers, all the things. And it can just be a lot. For some reason, I was okay with it. I feel like normally I would be like, this is too much all at once. I just think that the author does a really good job of like flowing things together. And the way that she's sort of weaving in the info dumps, if you will, is working for me. She's doing a good job with it. I'm loving the atmosphere of this book. I mean, the library as the backdrop is going to be an insta-love situation for me almost always. Like, you put a library in there, you put a bookstore in there, you got me. You got me in a chokehold, okay? And the grimoires are fascinating to me and adding a lot of like mystery and intrigue and also like thrill to the story. So I'm really enjoying that aspect of it. And the characters are probably my favorite part. I'm loving them so much. I love Elizabeth. She is sort of a bit of like a messy character, but she's also like fierce and just so fun to follow. I love just following her through all these sort of chaotic situations. I feel like she just processes things in a really interesting way and just like acts on her feet. Like she has thrown a hurdle and she's like, I'm not going to let that hurdle stop me. I'm going to jump over that hurdle or try to figure out a way through that hurdle, and I'm going to come out fiercer than before. I just like love that about her. I love that she's just like, I'm not going to let anything hold me back. Any obstacle that comes up, I'm going to be making my way through it. And don't even get me started with Catrian. I don't know how to say her name. Her bestie. She is a girl's girl. She will do anything for her bestie. She's a ride or die, at least at the point that I'm at in the story, which I don't even know if I told you guys how far in I am. I'm at chapter 23, page 256, but I just adore Catrian. Again, I don't know how to say her name. I need to figure out how to say her name. Also, I don't know why, but I love the character Silas. Like, I feel like he's a character that I'm maybe not supposed to love, but like, I love Silas. And I can't say too much about his character because I feel like the reveals with his character are pretty important to the story. I imagine they're going to be rather important to the story. But he's one of those characters that I'm just like completely transfixed by. Like every time he steps onto the page, I'm like, Silas, that's my boy Silas. He's so fascinating. And then there's Nathaniel. Nathaniel, I think I was like reading a little bit too into his dialogue there for a little bit. Like, I think he's meant to be like a charming, sarcastic character, but like some of the first lines with him had me like rolling my eyes like crazy, but I think it's supposed to be that way. Like, I think it's supposed to be like a silly hee hee ha ha sarcasm moment, and I have started to enjoy his character the more that I've read the more that I've read his dialogue and the more that I've gotten to know him. I've liked him a lot more. But there for a little bit I was like, I don't know how I feel about this boy. I mean, this right here had me fully rolling my eyes. How old are you? She asked. 18. She sat back in surprise. Truly? I haven't sacrificed virgins for my perfect cheekbones, if that's what you mean. Virgins, in general, have fewer magical properties than people tend to assume. Like, I was rolling my eyes at that. I think I just had to get used to the sarcasm, because when I was first reading it, I was not reading it as like a humorous, sarcastic trait. I was more so being like, okay, this boy is full of himself. My plan for the rest of the day is to bang this book out because I'm enjoying it so much. I need to know what happens next. I'm very excited by the fact that like I'm enjoying it so much, because I feel like this is an author where I've heard both negative and positive things. So it's one of those situations where it's like I had to suss out the situation for myself and not just like take people's words for it. So I'm really enjoying this. I don't know if it's going to be one of those situations where like I enjoy all of this author's books, but this one, it's a keeper. But I'm definitely planning on banging this book out today. I am getting ready to go to the grocery store because I need to like pick up a few bits and bobs, and then I'm gonna come back, crawl into bed, and read the heck out of this book. So the next time I see you, I'll have this book finished and we can gush about it. Unless you didn't like this book, then you can just listen to me gush about it and be like, boy, you're wrong. But in my world, I'm right, okay? I'm back from rotting in my bed, but I finished Sorcery of Thorns. Hear me out. I know that this book kind of falls into a bit of a predictable place. Like, I feel like it's pretty easy to kind of like pick up on where things are going. But I don't care. I don't care at all that it fell into a predictable place because it was so much fun. It reminded me of like old school YA that I used to read, but like just written a little bit better. Like, it reminded me a lot of like Shadowhunters a little bit. It had some Shadowhunter-y vibes, not like full force Shadowhunter vibes. I'd also say like maybe like a hint of Gilded Wolves, only a hint though. I don't think I'm doing a very good job of describing what I mean in saying that it's reminiscent of old school YA, but I feel like also maybe just like the addicting writing style, the addicting nature of this book, because I don't know about y'all, but for me, when I was reading this book, I just fell so fast into it. Like, I just got into it. I got tied to all the characters. I was obsessed with the world and the atmosphere, the vibes, all of those things immaculate. And the plot was so much fun. Again, it does kind of fall into a predictable place, but like, I still enjoyed myself. You're probably thinking that I'm going to be giving this book a 5 out of 5 stars, but I'm not. I'm landing on a 4-star rating with this book. I feel like that's a solid place to kind of put it. I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it, but I still had some issues. Like, there was a moment where things sort of lulled a little bit and the flow was a little bit off, and also just like the predictable nature of it. I feel like I just can't give it a full 5 out of 5 stars, but like in terms of fun, it is so fun. Okay, now for my predictions as to why our pal Chris might have DNF'd Sorcery of Thorns. Not just Chris, I guess in general, why I think people would DNF this book. While I love this cast of characters and will ride hard for them, like hardcore I will ride for these guys, I also recognize the fact that like they probably will not work for everybody. It's the type of characterization where it's more personality based and less focused on like the inner workings of their minds and their inner struggles. And also it's much more focused on the external things that are happening. But I could just see that like not working for some people. And I also feel like the dialogue with the characters as well could be an issue for some people. I mean, I was even having a hard time when I first started reading it, but then I fell into the flow and I was like, okay, I love these guys. I again think that the info dumpiness that kind of occurs in the beginning could also be an issue for some people. And I guess the predictability could also be an issue that some people might have. Those are all the things that I could come up with, but let's find out why Chris Chris DNF this book and see if I was right about any of the reasons for his DNF. Chris said, I wanted to love Sorcery of Thorns and got pretty far into it, and I loved the idea for it, but the direction it took just wasn't for me and I lost interest. Okay, I could see that. It felt more cheesy than believable, and the love interest didn't seem to fit for me either. Honestly, I could understand the cheesiness, especially in terms of like the dialogue between the characters. I mean, again, I fell into it. I fell into their trap, but like I really enjoyed the back and forth, the banter. And then he says, I think if this book was written for new adults versus young adults, it would have read much better. Then again, I'm not the target audience for this one. Okay, we love a self-aware king, recognizing the fact that he's just not the target audience for this one. I mean, I don't feel like I predicted his reasons fully. I definitely feel like me talking about the characters kind of correlates with that, because that comes in with like the cheesiness a little bit. But overall, I understand his reasons. I get why he DNF'd this book, but I'm glad that I stuck it out because I have a new favorite. I mean, it's not like an all-time favorite, but like it is a book that I would recommend. If you're somebody that used to read a lot of YA books, or you still currently read YA books, nothing wrong with that, and you like miss the sort of like fun, thrilling nature of that category of book, I definitely recommend checking out Sorcery of Thorns. The next read for this video is going to be Babel. Babel. So many of you guys, well, not so many of you guys, a couple of you guys mentioned Babel. I don't know how I want to pronounce it. I'm going to say Babel. So I'm going to be picking it up next, and I have this beautiful Illumicrate edition, so I'm going to be very careful in reading this book. I feel like I always have a hard time reading my special edition books because like I want them to be nice and clean and not have my grimy hands all over it. Not that I have grimy hands, I have very clean hands. But I want it to stay in good condition. I have a live stream tomorrow, so I think that's when I'm going to start this bad boy. It's going down. I'm excited about it. This is the only R.F. Kuang book that I have yet to read. Once I read this one, I will be fully caught up on her books. We're having a bit of a plot twist moment in this vlog, but it's on theme. It fits the theme of the video. I'm DNFing Babel. My channel members just witnessed me fully deciding to DNF this mid-live stream. We were in the middle of a reading sprint, and I was just like, I can't do this, y'all. I can't do this. This is not working for me. This is just not working for me currently. It's not a book that I'm gonna fully DNF, but I'm just not in the mood for a book like this. It's very dense and intense, and I wish I had another rhyme, but I don't. It's also just very wordy, and I still think that I want to read this book. I just don't think I am in the mindset to read this type of book. I have to be in a very specific mood and mindset in order for this book to work for me, and once that mood pops up, I will circle back around to this book, but I just don't feel like it's worth it for me, and I feel like if I sort of force myself to read this, then I will fully fall into a reading slump. So we're gonna do a bit of a switcheroo moment. I have a backup plan. The book that's going to be replacing it is A Marvelous Light, which I feel like should be a pretty significant tone switch. We'll see. I'll update you guys on that. This book was commented by A Book in Hand, and again, we've got another beautiful Illumicrate edition that I'm like afraid to touch and get my hands all over, but a book is meant to be read, okay? I believe in this book we are following a guy who is kind of like fed up with his life, and in that sort of fed upness, he ends up discovering a secret society, and this secret society is filled with magic and dangers galore, and he ends up getting cursed with something deadly, and so he has to pull in this guy to help him out, and there's a bit of a romance moment, there's a bit of a mystery. I'm intrigued, I'm excited. I've had this on my TBR for quite some time now. It's time to finally dive in and see how I feel about it. I will update you guys once I get a little bit farther in. I'm getting ready to go to the gym to go swimming. I'm unfortunately fully back in my Minecraft era, so I feel like any chance that I get a bit of free time, I should be reading, but I'm like, Minecraft? Should I play Minecraft? But me and my friends created a server together, which is one of my favorite things to do. I love having a server with my friends. I feel like Minecraft is just so much more fun when you have friends to go exploring with and build with. It's just like the best time. It's also like the most relaxing game ever. I love it. I live, laugh, love it. I will update you guys once I've made decent progress. Time for reading. We're not gonna let the steering wheel be the main character today. I'm the main character today, okay? Okay, steering wheel, okay? Oh my god. I'm back with an update. I've got quite a few things to update you guys on, but I've read a lot of A Marvelous Light since we last talked. I'm on page 182, chapter 14. I had a reading party stream last night with my channel members, and it ended abruptly because I had a bit of a situation. I was like reading, vibing, and all of a sudden I see out of the corner of my eye like this small little spider coming down from the ceiling, and it was like a baby minuscule little spider, and I was like, okay, that's not the vibe, that's not the moment, I'm not here for that, don't love a spider moment, so obviously I killed it. RIP to the spider. I am a spider murderer. It was one of those situations where I was like, this spider is so small, I feel like there's gotta be more spiders. It felt like a mama had given birth to more spiders. So I ended the live stream, and sure enough, I found like 7 spiders on the wall. 7 spiders! They were like little baby spiders, so it wasn't like I was like afraid necessarily, but I was still not like excited at the fact that I found 7 spiders. Like, no! No. I think the situation has been taken care of. Like, I don't think that there's any more, but Terminex has been contacted just as a precaution, just in case it is a bigger situation than I am able to handle. So anyway, I know we're here to talk about books and not being a spider murderer. Unfortunately, I'm not really enjoying this book as much as I'd hoped to. I am planning to stick it out. I'm not planning to DNF it necessarily because I really like the plot. And I really like the characters. And I feel like those two things are what's really convincing me to keep going with it. But the writing style is just not for me. It's like one of my biggest pet peeves, actually. It's very over-descriptive, which I feel like there is a time and a place for that over-descriptiveness. Like, I'm not somebody that's gonna like fully ditch a book just because it like describes things way more than it should. I feel like there are times... Oh, it's thundering. I don't know if you can hear that. It's about to storm again, which I'm actually not mad about. I will gladly take a storm. I mean, the sky is so gloomy. Let me show you the sky really fast. So gloomy, gloom, gloom. So with that being said, it's been a bit of a struggle bus to get through this book just because I'm not vibing well with the writing style itself. If I didn't like the plot or the characters, then I probably would DNF this book. I do like the fact that it's being told in multiple point of views. I really like Edwin and I really like Robin. Robin is the non-magical person, which does feel like a little bit cliche, but I feel like it's done in a way where it's executed well. And then we've got Edwin, who is already planted in the world of magic, and so we've got that interesting back and forth where we got somebody who doesn't really understand magic and somebody who does, and I'm really enjoying them and their banter. They have a bit of a romance situation developing, but I feel like it's not something where it's like the romance is merging into the main storyline and fully taking over. It's just kind of like an extra little cherry on top, but it is still very present. I will say that while the 2 main characters are being like very well developed, obviously, I feel like all the side characters are not being developed that well. Like, I feel like outside of their physical appearance, you don't get to know much about them, which is not that big of a deal. And I know that that's just like a tiny complaint, but I feel like when I'm not enjoying a book, all the things are heightened. Even if it's like a small complaint, it's like so much bigger in my head, and I'm like, oh, that's frustrating me. I am feeling very meh about this book, but I'm gonna stick it out. I'm gonna see it through to the end, and maybe I'll feel differently by the end of it. But I feel like because it is specifically about the writing style itself, that I'm not gonna like change my opinion. But we'll see. I'm optimistic, cautiously optimistic. I'm about to eat lunch and then head to the gym. I think I'm going to pair a comic book with my lunch, have a little munch and read sesh. I'm actually going to be reading a comic book that I got. Well, I'm going to be reading the first comic book because I got the second comic book in the series. Is the steering wheel taking over? My camera just like hates me lately. Do I have to like have the steering wheel fully out of frame? I think I needed like a new lens for my camera or something. Anyway, I've been really wanting to get into a comic book series and be able to read the issues as they're released. So I picked up Toxic Summer. I have the first one inside my house, so I might read the first one while I eat my lunch and then possibly move over to the second issue. I just have a hard time with comics because I feel like oftentimes I would just rather wait till the trade paperback comes out so I can just like read several issues back to back to back, because I feel like sometimes the stories just feel incomplete, but it's because you don't have the entirety of the story. Like, you're just getting a little chunk of the story. So I'm trying to get better at comics and kind of like open up my mind to that world a little bit. You guys want to know something else that's really disappointing? I got these ooey gooey butter cake cookies from my local store, and they're not really hitting in the way that I wanted them to hit. It makes me really sad. The flavor's just kind of off. It's got a bit of a like citrusy flavor, which I'm not really vibing with. That makes me a little bit sad. I'm gonna go cry and eat them. Because even though they're not really hitting, I'm still gonna eat them. I mean, I bought them, so I'm gonna eat them, you know? That's how this works. And they might not be all that I wanted them to be, but like,
I'm gonna be eating these suckers, okay? Just like that. It's not good, but I'm gonna eat it.
I feel like we're at like a sleepover or something, and I kind of love this vibe. I'm kind of into it. I ended up finishing A Marvelous Light, and tell me how I ended up just like eating this book right up. Like, I devoured it. I somehow just like found the flow of the writing style and just like consumed the hell out of it. Now, I want to be clear. I still didn't like the writing style. It is still not my vibe. It is not my forte, but I found the flow when I chug-a-lug-a-lugged on until I reached the end. My favorite thing about this book was just the plot itself. Like, I felt like there were so many interesting things that took place in this book. I really liked all the little things that popped up. It was like the main thing that really grabbed me. There were so many intriguing things that happened. Also, a lot of spiciness goes down in this book. I actually did not know that this book was going to be filled to the brim in spiciness. Like, it even like ends with a spicy scene. So, and when I say spicy, I mean it felt like they were getting down and dirty, and I was like, should I be here? Like, I felt like I was just like sitting in the room and they were just on the bed making it squeak, and I was like looking through my hands being like, am I supposed to be looking at this? Am I supposed to be observing this? But it was fine. My biggest gripe was the ending. Like, I felt like I wanted more from it. I know that this is the first in a trilogy, I believe, so I'm sure it was just kind of like being more open to allow for more story to come flooding in with the next few books. I just wish that the ending would have left me feeling a little bit more satisfied. But overall, I am landing on a 3-star rating with this book. I'm giving it a 3 out of 5 stars. Now it's time to talk about why I think somebody might have DNF'd this and see if I can figure out why somebody mentioned this as their DNF. So I have a few reasons, and they're things that I've talked about. One, the side characters felt very surface level. Like, a lot of the side characters just felt like they were just there as like filler, and I just would have liked more from them. I know that side characters can't always be explored really deeply, but I just wanted a little bit more from them. Again, I have harped on this book so much about the writing style, but like, if you're anything like me, the writing style was such a big gripe for me. Like, I think I probably would have given it like a 4 out of 5 stars if I would have enjoyed the writing style more. I do feel like the story itself is worth it in the end, so if you're like me and you can kind of like overlook a not so great writing style, you might enjoy this. But again, this writing style might be for some people. I just think there's something specific about it, like the over descriptiveness about it, that just drove me bonkers. And then I would say that I could see somebody DNFing this book because of the smuttiness, the spiciness of it, because I feel like some people just like don't want that in books, and I'm partially that way. Like, I don't mind it when it's there, but sometimes I'm like, what is this adding to the story? Like, what is the significance here other than just like reading the spiciness? Again, it just really depends on the book and how it's executed. Let's see why A Book in Hand DNF'd it. They said, A Marvelous Light, I wish it had worked for me, just a little too slow paced for a fantasy in my opinion. Oh, well, I did not pick up on that. I mean, I definitely understand where they're coming from, because I feel like it is rather slow paced, especially in the beginning. It definitely takes its time to kind of like build you up. Well, I would say that you're kind of like thrown into the mix pretty quickly. Like, you are kind of like thrown into everything, but I will say that it does kind of like take its time to build up the relationship and some pieces of like the magical aspect of the story. So I guess I could see where they're coming from. I can understand why somebody would want to DNF a book because of the slower paced nature to it, especially with a fantasy. Sometimes that can be a struggle. I will say, and I'm going to mention it one last time, I think that the writing style could have added to that like slower paced style, because it is like describing things that didn't need to be described half the time. So that's what I will say. Not me beefing with this book's writing style. I'm over here beefing with a writing style. Before I talk about my next read, I did end up reading issues 1 and 2 of Toxic Summer, which I'm really enjoying the series, but I got to the end of issue 2 and I found out that it's only a 3-issue run. So like, the story's gonna be over. And like, I feel like I was just getting into it and just getting excited about it, and now it's gonna be over. But also it's like a good thing, because that means that I can like wrap up another series and I'm not committing to like this big grand series. But the 3rd issue doesn't come out till September, which makes me really sad. But I'm really enjoying it. It's about these 2 boys who want to like have the summer of their lives. They have plans to go to this beach town, become lifeguards, party, and meet cute boys. But when they get there, they find out that the beach has been contaminated with toxic waste, and they, instead of becoming lifeguards, have to like help clear out the beach. They make these new friends and they're about to go to a party, but when they get there, they find that these new friends of theirs have been like taken over by these like toxic waste beasts. It's a really fun time. There's a part of it that feels very like Scooby-Doo to me almost. Like, it's not necessarily about a group of friends who are detectives and like trying to figure out what's going on. But I guess like the toxic waste creatures is giving me like Scooby-Doo vibes. I'm really into it. I'm really enjoying it. I am excited to get to the last issue, but again, I have to wait till freaking September. That's just crazy. Okay, let's pick out my next read. And the last book that I'll be reading for this vlog is This Is How You Lose the Time War. This recommendation, it's not a recommendation. The person who DNF'd this book is God with a Glorious Purpose. I think this is one of those books that was like Book Talk's darling there for a little bit, aka a book that Book Talk popularized. I've had friends who have loved this book, but then I know somebody who like diehard hates this book, so I'm very eager to find out where I land with this one. It has a really interesting concept. I think it's like a bit of a sci-fi situation. It's a dual perspective, and we're getting a back and forth correspondence between these two rival agents that are currently in a war that stretches between time and space. Let's get to reading. I have made it to page 132, and This Is How You Lose the Time War. I feel like for a majority of this book, I've been like wading through confused waters. Like I've just been confused the whole time reading it. I feel like I've kind of reached land and I have like found some clarity, but for the most part, I just feel confused. I feel like I understand what's going on with the characters and like their connection, like that part of it I understand fully. But I feel like with everything else happening, I just feel lost. I really love the writing style, even though I feel like the writing style is adding to like the layer of confusion. I still really like the way that it's written. I think it's written in a very flowery, it's very poetic, but I also feel like it's just very unique, and I love that about it. But at the same time, I feel like there's a part of me that just feels so removed from the emotions that's happening between these two characters. It's very much so a love story that's developing between these two characters, and that romance is developing between these letters that are written in this very poetic way, but I just feel like I'm an observer rather than like in the thick of it, which I think that formatting of a story can sometimes work, but I feel like because I don't have any sort of like connection to the characters, that I think I'm just having a hard time like fully sinking into this connection and fully sinking into the characters and fully sinking into the emotions. So I'm struggling quite a bit with this book. I feel like with this book, it's sort of an opposite experience of A Marvelous Light. A Marvelous Light, like I loved the plot, I loved the characters, hated the writing style. In this one, I really love the writing style, but everything else is just falling very flat. I'm definitely planning on finishing this today. I don't have too much longer. It looks longer than I actually do, but I think there's like a book club situation at the back. Yeah, this chunk of it is just a book club situation, so definitely planning on finishing this today. I'm also planning on finishing the current Survivor season that I'm on. I'm watching Survivor Heroes vs. Villain. I've been going back through and watching all of Cerie's seasons. For those of you who love Survivor and know all there is to know about Survivor, I've been watching Cerie's seasons because I watch Traitors, and it just like got me in the mood to watch Survivor. She was on Traitors season 1, so which I really loved, by the way. I don't know if any of you guys have watched Traitors, but I highly recommend it. It's a really fun reality TV show, but it made me want to go back and watch her seasons. So I am making my way through Cerie's seasons, and I feel like it's going to kind of like open me up to wanting to watch more seasons because there's just so many good ones. I need to run to the grocery store for like the 5th time this week. I feel like I'm just so bad at just like going to the grocery store once a week and just getting everything I need. I feel like I'm always having to go back for things that I forgot about, which might be my own fault because I never make a list when I go to the grocery store. I mean, I have in the past, but even when I make a list, I feel like I always am forgetting something on the list. I'm also in the mood to like do things with my hands, like do some like activities of some sort, and by that I mean like a puzzle. I have these bookish puzzles that I've been wanting to put together, so I might crack one of these open. They're pretty small too. I think they're like 252 pieces each. I'm feeling like doing the Alice in Wonderland one, so this might be going down today. I also have a Lego set that my friend got me for my birthday last year. It's a Minecraft Lego set, which I feel like would be the perfect time to do this because I am back in my Minecraft era, but it's of a panda. It's so freaking cute, so I'm probably going to be doing some like hand activities today. That's what I'm calling it, hand activities. finishing This Is How You Lose the Time War this morning, and I feel like I don't have anything new to say. I think that everything I said in my last update remains the same as I've reached the end. I feel like I understand the type of person who would enjoy this book. I only enjoyed it because of the writing style itself, but I feel like if you are somebody who loves a romance story told in a very unique way, and maybe if you're somebody who really enjoys the atmosphere and vibes of a sci-fi novel, then I feel like this book could work for you. But it just didn't really work for me, and I did try to go into it with a bit of an open mind, but I just never really found myself connecting myself to the story. So I completely understand why somebody might DNF this book. I would give this book a 2 out of 5 stars, I think. I am going back and forth in my head. I'm like, is it a 1.5 star rating or is it a 2-star rating? 1.5, 2-star. Ratings are hard. And I feel like my prediction for why somebody might DNF this are a lot of my critiques. It's confusing. I also feel like even though I love the writing style, I know that people hate flowery writing style. Like, not everybody like vibes that well with like very poetic and flowery writing style. And that's exactly how the writing style is executed in this. So I feel like that could be a reason somebody might DNF it. What else was there? I guess the characters, and also maybe the fact that it is so focused on a romance, because that is like the root of the story, truthfully, and then everything else is kind of on the sidelines. So I feel like that could be a reason why somebody might DNF this book. But let's find out why the person that commented this book DNF'd it. See if I was right about anything. I just dropped the book, but it dropped me with disappointment. So, all right, they said, this is how you lose the time war. Well, it isn't bad or anything. The concept is actually pretty good. I agree with that. And I hope to pick it up again, but I wasn't enjoying it as much as I wanted to before school starts. So I DNF'd it in favor to finding a better suited book to last me when I won't be able to read as much because of school. It seems like they did a little bit of a DNF for now. Personally, I would say just like DNF it if you were enjoying it. Truthfully, I probably should have DNF'd it, but I just wanted to reach the end, and again I was like still enjoying the writing style of it, and like for me that was enough. But I don't know that I would like highly recommend this book. I think it's for a specific type of person, a specific type of reader. So if you're just not vibing with it, maybe don't continue on with it. That's what I should have done. But sometimes it's hard when I'm reading these books for a vlog. It's hard to DNF them because I'm like, I want to talk about these books with you guys. So that's why I didn't DNF it, even though I DNF'd Babel in this video. Anyway, we have reached the end of the video. I'm now going to rank the books from best to worst, even though I feel like you guys know what's going to be the best and what's going to be the worst. Hands down, the best book that I've read in this video is Sorcery of Thorns, of course. I highly recommend this if you're wanting a fun YA adventure story. Then we've got A Marvelous Light. Even though I didn't like die hard love this book, I had so much fun with it, and by the end of it, I was glad that I decided to stick it through to the end. And then finally, of course, This Is How You'll Lose the Time War is in the bottom slot. Just not for me, not my vibe. That is it for this vlog. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I want to hear from you guys down below in the comments. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what your thoughts are on them. Also, have you read Babel? Did you make it to the end? Do you feel like it's worth it? Let me know. If you have no thoughts on those books, then just let me know down below in the comments a book that you DNF'd recently. If you like this video, be sure to go and hit that like button. If you want to see more bookish content from me, be sure to go and hit subscribe or go and hit that bell icon and you'll be notified every time I post new videos. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope your day is bright, that tomorrow is brighter. Keep reading what your heart desires, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye!